We're going to go now to Finance Minister and President of Treasury Board, Tom Marshall. Hello.
Hi, Linda. Good afternoon.
How are you? Twice in 1 week.
I know. I'm very popular this week. And this is the week I'm home. I've been in court of work, and it gives me a chance to do some constituency matters as well, which is, the part of the job that I always find the most enjoyable.
I think most elected members are like that. They like their on-the-ground district work the best.
Exactly, because that's why you get into politics in the first place. You don't get in to be president of the Treasury Board or the Attorney General, right? You run to try to make the province better for the people of the province. Right.
Now, on to other matters, though. In your role as Finance Minister, Terry Padden released his report on audited financial statements today, and he had a bit of a cautionary note. I mean, there's nothing that I haven't heard come from you yet, but a little bit concerned about the sustainability of program spending. He mentioned the unfunded pension liabilities, of course, and he mentioned our continued reliance on oil revenue. Your thoughts on all that?
Well, in terms of spending, I mean, as you know, and I've said many times, and you and I have discussed this many times, that for many years the province did not have the financial resources to provide programs and that the people of the province deserved and other provinces had, and so when our government got in, we got an opportunity to do it, and we did it, and I call it catch up. And then, I mean, people remember how bad the infrastructure was, how bad the roads were, the ferries, the air ambulances and whatnot, and we had to deal with that in a major way. And we've made a lot of progress, but there's still lots of work to be done, particularly with roads. And we're going to do that. But we're always cognizant of the fact that we have to make sure that we don't spend more than we're taking in, and we haven't done that. We've always, in the years we had surpluses, we always had some cash leftovers because we knew that we were going to have a surplus every year. There were going to be deficits from time to time, and we wanted to be able to deal with those. And we had cash so that the deficit, the report. The public accounts that came out, as we discussed the other day, was for the year 12-13. That was last year, and we had money that we could pay for that. We didn't have to borrow. We didn't have to borrow for that, and we tried to do that. But of course, some years we want and we'd have to borrow. But we're expecting a deficit. We had a deficit last year. We're expecting one next year, and. But we expect to be back to surplus a year after that. So we then expect a few more years of good, robust surpluses, and then that'll give us money again. What we're pleased about is that for 10 years we haven't had to go and borrow any money for either operational purposes or for capital purposes. We could finance our deficits out of cash on hand. We didn't have to borrow, and we paid for our infrastructure from cash on hand. We didn't have to borrow for any of that, and that's been amazing. I wish I could say we could do it forever, but next year we're going to have to borrow a bit, but not for years in a row. I think we might have to do it for a year or two, and then we'll be back into surplus, and we won't have to do it for a while again. So that's the spending side, and I'm also pleased to say that spending last year over the year before went down $137 million. So we know we spend more per capita than the Canadian average. I understand that we're about 40% higher, and we know that in healthcare, we spend more per person in Newfoundland and Labrador than any other government, than any other province, I should say. I'm not referring to the territories, I'm referring to the provinces. And but there's great demands out there. People, we want the best for the people of the province, and we're going to continue to spend appropriately. We're going to continue to address needs, but we have to do it in line with the money that's coming in. We can't do it all in 1 year. We got to do it over time, and that's where we've developed a 10-year sustainability plan. Now,
Minister Marshall, we're up to news time now. Are you willing to hold through the news, or do you have another commitment?
No.
Okay, no. I'll put you on hold, and we'll come back to you immediately following the news. That's okay with you?
Sure, Lynn.
Okay, sure. And we're back. VOCM Backtalk. We're going to speak with Finance Minister Tom Marshall. We were on the air with him just before the break. And hello, Minister Marshall.
Hi, Linda.
Demographics and our continued heavy reliance on oil revenue, two concerns raised by the AG.
Right.
Maybe you can address some of that too.
Well, our population, we're getting older, and our population was declining. It's gone up a little bit. The state of the economy is attracting people to this province, and I think that could continue. But with an older population, has a big effect on the economy, particularly healthcare. As we get older, we use the health system more. So, we can expect to see more people using the healthcare system, and they're going to be sicker. So that's going to, we have to provide for that. I think, what jumps out at you, of course, is long-term care, home support, home care. And, you're going to see drops in certain areas, and you're going to see growth in demand for, like, orthopedics, because people need new hips and new knees. You're going to see a big demand in ophthalmology, as people need, to deal with the cataracts. Here in Corner Brook, we're extremely fortunate. We have 3 ophthalmologists here. We've got an eye clinic here, and it's something that we had planned for, and under an ophthalmologist here, Dr. Weejay, had come, and he had identified people in the system that could be, that would come to the West Coast, and we had managed to attract them there. So we have to continue to do things like that. And on the other side, I was,
if you don't mind me interrupting for a second, but it seems to me that a lot of those kinds of needs, as people age, the greater need is going to be in rural areas of the province.
Well, I think it'll be the whole province. Obviously, wherever we have people, but yes, rural and urban. The other side of it is that people are retiring. You got that baby boom generation retiring. So when they retire, they won't have the income they had before. Therefore, they'll be paying less taxes. And and who's replacing them? We have all these jobs that are going to become vacant because these people are retiring. We need people to replace those positions, and who's going to pay for the pensions of these new people? In other words, while the baby boomers were working, they were contributing, they were making contributions into the pension fund, and the money was then used to help pay the pensions of people who were retired and living longer. But with the baby boomers out there all retired, the generation coming behind is not as large a group, so there will be less people contributing. So, I've talked about why our unfunded pension liability has been growing, and we talked about if people were retiring earlier, therefore contributing to their pension plan less, and then being retired for longer periods of time because of a wonderful thing that's happened. We're living longer, which is great, and because of people are looking after themselves better, better health care, drugs are doing these things, and but if the markets are down, and if you're not contributing enough to sustain the pension plan over a longer period of time, if the markets aren't doing well, then the only hope then, if you got a lot of people out there working for the government contributing to the pension plan, are not going to be retiring for a while, but those people are retiring. So that's going to have a big impact on our economy from both sides: the demand for healthcare and the fact that the more people into the healthcare system and less people working, therefore less people contributing to the pension planning and contributing tax revenue, which governments need to provide the services and programs that people want.
And declining oil revenue. So how is government preparing for all of that?
Well, they always say we're heavily reliant on oil revenues. Yes, we are, but we're still going to take them. Okay. What the very being of the very essence of our policy and our energy plan was to, take the money coming from oil that we know is going to be gone one day and try to take that and invest in projects that will produce renewable revenues forever. And the classic example of that is Muskrat Falls. But we also invested in a diversified forestry diversification program. We invested in aquaculture. We've invested and will continue to invest in agriculture. These are, new areas and of course there's the forestry, there's the fishery, which will always be with us, hopefully. But we have to continue to make investments like that. They don't always work. It's not easy to do. Sometimes it fails. But the whole idea is to try and diversify the economy. And the big one, of course, is in terms of energy. And what Muskrat Falls, there's a lot of talk of Muskrat Falls. It's built as a project to provide us with electricity in the future. But, when you think of the electricity generators in the province, and who have made money over the years, and they get a return and a profit, and then they take that and they're going to invest that in other projects. Might be in South America, might be in the United States, could be in other places where they seek more profits and more return for their shareholders. With Muskrat Falls, the benefits, the profits coming from that, the cash flow that will come from that it's because that project is owned by the people of the province, it's owned by Nalcor, which the people in Newfoundland and Labrador own. It's not some monopoly from somewhere else. It's not some privately owned firm. It's owned by the people of the province. The revenues, the cash flow, the profits from that will get invested back in Newfoundland and Labrador into new hospitals, new long-term care facilities. And that's the great thing about that project. It's a legacy to our children and our grandchildren. And, you know, we have to do more things like that to sell our energy, to generate energy, to replace the declining oil and gas.
There have been concerns, though, raised about availability of markets and whether or not anybody's going to be willing to buy our power. Mm-hmm. I mean, how can you guarantee that?
Well, I can't guarantee anything, but what I can say is that you know, when you make energy based on water, it's a lot cheaper than when you make energy based on fossil fuels, and I think that's going to hold. I think that's going to hold. We can't do anything about world markets. If we have a surplus, that, you know, if we have a product that exceeds the needs of the people of the province, then obviously you're going to look to monetize that by selling it into markets throughout the world or wherever you can get your product to. We've been doing, you know, we've always been an exporting province. You know, we export our fish. You have to go to markets, and you can't control what the price is in other markets. They are what they are, and you have to deal with them. We're going to have some surplus power from Labrador, and then we want to monetize that by selling it to people who need it. And the markets will be whatever they'll be. But I like the idea of having a product that you know, the water is free. The rain comes, the rivers flow. Excuse me. It'll always be cheaper than fossil fuels.
All right, I sense you're having a bit of difficulty there, but
I'm sorry. I apologize. I have a cold, and
well, you've been doing great till now.
All right. Well, thanks.
I'd like to go on with this, but we do have a very busy afternoon, so we'll leave it there for the time being. But no doubt you'll be responding as well to the Auditor General's report on all the departments in the next little while as well. So it'll be the ministers of the different departments that will respond to that part. I respond to his report on the financial aspects with respect to the various departments. It'll be the ministers of each department that will respond to that. All right. Thank you very much.
I look forward to our future conversations. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Tom Marshall there, responding to the Auditor General's report on audited financial statements released today.